Setting written goals is very important to success. A study was recently done of a business school where they tracked the graduates for a period of 10 years after they graduated. 84% of the students hadn't written or made any sort of goals for themselves. 13% had made some goals but hadn't written them down, and 3% actually had goals and wrote them down. What they discovered was the 13% was earning on average 3 times more than the 84%, and the 3% who had both made goals and written them down were earning on average 10 times what those students who had not made any goals were making. One of the objectives that you will have with your mentees is helping them to develop goals, and specifically written goals that are SMART. SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, ambitious, realistic, and time-sensitive. So for example, if I said that my goal was, I want to be rich, that's a terrible goal. Am I rich now? I don't know. Will I be rich if you give me $10? It's far too subjective and too meaningless. Therefore, it's a bad goal. To make that goal SMART, for example, I would need to start off by making it specific. So what do I mean by rich? Perhaps for myself, I mean having $1 million in the bank. So if I say, I want to have $1 million in the bank, now it's specific. It's also measurable because I can go to my bank account and check and see what the balance is and know exactly how far I am towards that goal. The next two, ambitious and realistic, depend very heavily on the individual that you're working with. So for example, myself working in a nonprofit, I don't earn a lot, so to save up $1 million would be an ambitious goal because it's not easy for me to pull together and save that much money. Is it realistic? Well, perhaps. It's really going to depend on the last part in my case, which is the time specificity. So if I said I want to have $1 million in my bank account by this time next year, well, now it's time specific, but now it's no longer realistic. There's no way, practically or legally speaking, that I can accumulate $1 million in 1 year time period. So therefore, it's still super ambitious, but it's no longer realistic. On the flip side, if I said that I want to have $1 million in my bank account 50 years from today, it's not very ambitious anymore. Yeah, it's realistic because if I just save $20 a month for the next 50 years and invest it, then I can easily have $1 million. But that's not ambitious anymore. Now, if I say that I want to have $1 million in my bank account 14 years from today, now it's both realistic and ambitious. Ambitious because I'm really going to have to pinch my pennies and be very smart about how I spend and do as much as I can to pull that money together. But it's realistic because I could conceivably do it if I cut all waste spending from my budget and so forth. So going from I want to be rich, which is a terrible goal, to making it a SMART goal by saying I want to have $1 million in my bank account 14 years from today is the difference between a good and a bad goal. Now, I would want to write that down and thereby have my SMART goal. Once we have the SMART goal written, the next step is working with our mentee on developing a series of milestones so that we can get there. So in my wanting to be rich example, I could simply write that goal down, but what do I do? How much do I need to save every year in order to get to that goal? And by setting a series of micro goals or milestones that I'm going to achieve, it helps me feel some success so that I don't have to wait 14 years for that sense of, yes, I achieved a goal. I can actually see some successes as I go along. So maybe my first goal is in the first year that I need to be able to save $20,000. And that's going to mean I need to be saving $1,800 a month. And then I need to say, well, for me to do that, that's taking my budget down, and I break it down into small chunks that become actually achievable, and therefore I have some small successes along the way. And as a mentor, not only do you help your mentees develop those milestones and make sure that they're practical and realistic, you're also there to be encouraging for them so that as you go through, you can help them to be patient during some of the longer stretches, and at the same time, you're able to give them encouragement to stay on track. Maybe they go off track a little bit. You help them stay on track. And if it comes down to it and they need to modify their goal a little bit, that's fine too.